very nice to be exciting to be able to come. I do normally is kind of my I don't know what God wants from them and serve the people that they want to serve. So I stream week all kinds of video games, mental health stuff, and then we cover training materials, and then we do the hot topics, and it's always what we call an AMA, which is an Ask Me Anything. So it's just non-stop variety. And I get to do all the stuff that I want to do for the rest of my life. It's so fun. Everything I wanted to do in my life and everything that I'm good at, I feel like I get to do right now. So that's me. For the last 16 years or so, or like for 16 years before that, I was a traditional pastor. And in the last 4, I basically dedicated myself to reaching the lost, the lonely, the disenfranchised people that are only able to be found within the digital and gaming world. These are folks that are not, they don't come to church, they don't go to the library, they don't hang out at the coffee shops, they're at home for a very variety of reasons. It would be mental health issues, or learning disabilities, or physical disabilities, or social anxiety. Whatever it is, they're home. And usually in their room. And so therefore, how do you reach people? How do you share love with people? How do you support people that are always in their room? They're never going to come to church, and they're never going to come to your event. You got to go to them. And the way that we go to them as content creators, but I go to them, is through the internet, through gaming, through reaching them where they're at, with the thing that they're interested in. When people usually talk about gaming, they usually talk about it in a negative sense, about the addiction, the isolation, the exposure to violence and sexuality. And while I agree that those are like major concerns that we should have, and obviously we should address them, tonight I want to talk about something a bit more fundamental, something that's been different. Instead of talking about why people shouldn't game or why gaming is dangerous, I want to ask the question, why do people gravitate toward games in the first place? Why is it that sometimes in people's lives they basically become they are one with the game. That's what they are. They are a gamer. They don't go out. That's what they do. They play. Let me give you a few statistics for how big the gaming industry is. In 2023, that's the recent stats I could get. It was worth about $184 billion worldwide. There was 3.2 billion gamers in the world. 80% of people under 18 in North America identify themselves as gamers. It's a big, big industry. It blows the film industry out of the water, blows the music industry out of the water. Both of those put together is only 110 billion. Like, gaming takes over everything. Even major tournaments within gaming now have attendance that rivals some of the biggest sporting events ever. It is mainstream. It's huge. It plays a substantial role in modern entertainment, education, media. It's a mover of digital and global culture. Drive through any suburban neighborhood in Ontario, and I'm sure you've noticed this, there's fewer kids playing outside, there are fewer kids like biking around to their friend's house, coffee shops, community centers, they're not as full as they used to be. And church youth groups, they really struggle to be able to keep teens engaged. People are spending more time indoors, turning to digital spaces to find that connection and engagement that they once had in physical spaces, third places, they call them. For many, gaming has become more than just a hobby, more than just a way to waste some time or to relax after a day of work or something, and it's their primary way to socialize, to unwind, to even build a sense of identity and purpose. Their life is the game. In my experience, gaming in and of itself is not inherently bad. In fact, the widespread appeal suggests that it fulfills a certain deep-seated need within the human person that they can't find elsewhere. So today what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about those needs that gaming addresses, and then talk about how we as parents and churches and friends can respond. often the immediate reaction from parents when they hear, or church leaders, or kind of non-gamers, when they hear that someone is in their room playing games for hours a day, is to think, how do we limit that? How do we stop that? How do we keep that person from gaming so that they'll go outside and play, so that they'll go to church more, so they'll be more involved? And I don't want to talk about that tonight. What I want to talk about is to answer the question, what are they getting? What are these gamers getting from the gaming experience that they aren't getting from home, or from school, or from community, or from church? I want to share 3 needs that gaming fulfills, and how families and church can respond. So the needs are achievement and purpose, control and agency, belonging and community. Each of these needs isn't about entertainment or fun or addiction or distraction. It is very deep in the human condition. It isn't about demonizing or glorifying games. I'm not talking about either one of those. I'm not here to convince you that gaming is great. I'm not here to convince you gaming is terrible. What I want to do is to have you recognize the deeper issues that are at play among gamers who are spending their time doing that. So number 1, the need for achievement and purpose. I remember when I was in Bible school, I didn't know what God wanted me to do. I remember that when I was in high school, I was able to kind of figure it out. I wanted to be a computer guy. That's all I wanted to do. I knew computers, I love computers, and that's what I was going to do. Went to the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology and decided I wanted to be a computer programmer. Let's go. And it turned out the things they wanted me to do weren't the things I wanted to do, and so I dropped out. I didn't like the job. I liked it for fun. But then I had nowhere to go. I didn't know what to do with myself. So the next year, I went to Bible school. And I hung out there and kind of tried to figure myself out. It wasn't too long after that that God kind of got a hold of my heart and said, okay, stay here. This is where I want you to be. And while I was there, it was kind of the game was to try to figure out, now what? So I tried a million things and volunteered a bunch of places and talked to pastors and teachers and everyone that would tell me, how did you get called? How do you know what you're supposed to do? I was really fundamentally trying to find out, why am I here? Where am I supposed to be? Who God created me to be? And it not knowing was scary. Video games address that need. One of the biggest reasons people love video games is the sense of progress. You always know where you stand, whether it is points accumulated or leveling up or unlocking new skills or climbing the leaderboard. Every action has a clear result, and there's somewhere to look to see how you're doing, where you're going. Some games even have daily challenges or quests that you do to keep you engaged and have a sense of accomplishment every time you log in. They know where they're at. They know what they need to do. They know exactly where they've been, and along the way, they get achievements. They get to learn new parts of the game. They get to level up and see their progress numerically. Compare that to life, or school, or home, where progress often feels slow, feels unclear, feels sometimes non-existent. If I don't know where I stand in life, or my skills, or my job, or comparing to others, or unsure where I'm headed, or where I'm supposed to go, or where I've come, I'm constantly wondering how effective or special I am, I'm going to feel really insecure, and I'm going to go try to find a place that I can find the clear sense of achievement, of progress in gaming. I'll feel useful, I'll feel needed, I'll feel successful, I'll feel powerful, feel like I'm saving someone, helping someone, feel like I'm solving problems. These are primal, fundamental human needs. Now consider how that works out in the Christian life. A lot of people have no idea where they stand when it comes to their maturity in their faith, how effective they are in following God's path. Like, what level are you at as a Christian? They don't know how to level up. They don't know where their walk with God is, and they usually don't have a clear spiritual growth chart to really look for. There's no one-handed, like a handout that just simply says, here's a merit badge, here's a gold star, here's the next step you can go. So it's easy to become discouraged, stagnant. Assume you've already been there. You're already there. You've reached the top level. This is the best you can be. If you were playing a game that had no end, had no purpose, you didn't know where to go and what you're supposed to be doing, how long would you play it for? There's no sense of progress. Even in Minecraft, one of the things they introduced, which is the biggest sandbox game in the world, where you can do whatever you want, one of the complaints was, well, how do we know if we won? So they actually brought in a dragon to slay, so that people would know when they got to the end of Minecraft. Then they play the credits, and they start again. This sandbox wasn't enough. They wanted to know that they could win. The church often talks about spiritual growth, but without concrete ways to measure that growth, a lot of people just give up because they don't see any progress. They hear, pray more, read your Bible more, but how much more? And for what purpose? And what skill am I leveling up if I do that? And when there's no clear path, it feels like faith is just something you have, or it's something you did once. It's not an ongoing adventure. It's not something you're trying to get better at, something you're trying to go closer to, something you're trying to add more to your life. It's just the thing you do. Scripture is clear that God designed us for growth, designed us for progression. It's full of mission-based language all the way through. And there's lots of scriptures we could point to, but I'm just going to settle on Ephesians 2:10, where Paul says that we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. In the gaming life, we have character, skills, mission. Same thing in real life. God has given us a character, skills, mission, good works to do along the way, levels to achieve. It's natural to wonder, what is my workmanship? What am I made of? What good works am I supposed to be doing? How can I walk in them? How do I know how far I've gone? How far along am I in that walk? Video games make it easy to chart how you're doing, but ask yourself, how are we helping Christians know where they are along the way in their walk with God? Do you know what your next faith challenge is? Do you know what your spiritual goal is? Do you know who your spiritual enemies are? Do you know what you need to level up your faith next, or your effectiveness? How to bolster your spiritual gifts to be more effective? Or are you just kind of doing spiritual things, Christian things, in hopes that stuff happens? For you, if you're a mature Christian, then it's something you might do naturally. You know, you do the spiritual disciplines, you get a better spiritual life, you understand how it works. But young people, new believers, many people who are seeking God, they don't know that. They've never experienced that. So knowing what to do to grow as a Christian is a mystery to them. And often one that many don't talk about with delineated stages and goals. So how can we improve? How do we get better at this? What if, instead of expecting people to just kind of figure out their faith by coming to church and going to classes and going to group and going to youth, what if we create clear ways so they can see their progress? When I was a full-time pastor, I actually came up with a chart that helped people knew where they were along the way. It told them what the next challenge was. It told them where the next level was. It told them how much involvement they could expect and how their life will change and what they expect to see God to do and what kind of sins they're going to confront and how much time it was going to take for commitment and what classes to attend to go to the next level. It was right there, and I was able to hand it to people. I have not seen many other churches that have anything close to that. So often we get the young people, we get the new believers, and they just kind of hand out the bulletins and they run the PowerPoint and they watch the kids and they don't really connect any of that to what it means to their spiritual growth. But imagine if you were able to take church leaders and, even with those same jobs, purposefully create a mentor system that gave them new ministry experiences and then feedback on how they did. Instead of just saying, go hand out the bulletin, what if at the end of the bulletin, at the end of the month, you sat there and you said, so how did that go? What's going on? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about the church? What next challenge do you think you need? What was going right? What was going wrong? Parents assume that bringing their kids to church and to youth group is enough, but spiritual growth, like anything else, requires intention. Just like kids track their progress in school or gaming or in sports, they need ways to see and celebrate their growth in faith. The more engaged and intentional parents are, the more likely their children are going to see real, dynamic, personal faith. Another one of the most appealing aspects of gaming is the sense of control that it gives players. Remember when I first started streaming that that for a decade and a half up to that point, I was beholden to the church board and to previous decisions and the denomination and to whatever I adopted when I got there and all the traditions that they had set up. I was a replacement cog in an existing machine. However, when God called me to start this new ministry, He allowed me to do something I'd never done before. Build something completely unfettered by anyone else or anything in the past. I could decide how to engage my audience, what content I want to make, when I wanted to stream, how I wanted to stream, how to shape my community, what to do next. The sense of ownership that I had over what I was doing was empowering. Yes, it was scary, but I could also move as fast as I wanted. It was exciting. The sense of having the whole thing kind of on my shoulders, working with God on this, was wildly motivational. By contrast, a lot of people don't feel like they have any control, any agency over their life, especially young people. Many feel powerless. Their schedules are set for them. Their education is structured. Without their input, they never ask what they want to do. They just do it. The news is full of things that affect their life every day in substantial ways, but they can't influence it. At home, decisions are made without even consulting them at all. This is where we're going. This is what we're doing. This is how long it's going to be. They move from activity to activity, class to class, place to place, assignment to assignment, like a robot running a program that someone else wrote. Even in church, they're often told what to believe, how to act, to follow the order of service, go to the pre-scheduled events, listen to the pastor, but given real no place to explore, experiment, fail, make faith their own. When someone asks a question about doctrine, they might get shut down, and oh, that's very complicated. Or they're just told, you know what, go ask the pastor. Just go ask the pastor, he'll give you the answer. They're not given the tools to wrestle. They're just given a pat answer. Instead of guiding people through the process of discovery, we just hand them a script and expect them to follow it. There's very little room for agency there. They're passengers in their life, passengers in their spiritual life, educational life, family life, faith life. Since they're treated like passengers, they act like passengers. Disengage with life, faith, school. So it's no wonder that they're drawn to games where they can take control, try new things, experiment, fail, take risks, see the results of their choices in real time, feel like they're actually doing something that matters and that the outcome depends on them. In the game, you make a decision and it shapes your experience. You choose your character, your skills, your path, sometimes you even change the way the story unfolds. The way you play the game, the way someone else plays the game, makes the game different to you. Games provide a world where choices matter. The Bible doesn't present faith as this passive experience. It is full of choices. Participation. Deuteronomy 30:19. Yeah, there you go. Deuteronomy 30:19. God says to Israel, I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life. In Mark 10, Jesus is talking to the rich young ruler, and when he asks Jesus, what do I need to do to inherit eternal life? Jesus said, all right, you lack one thing. Go sell everything you have, give it to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, then come follow me. The man had agency. He could choose to or not. He walked away sad because he didn't want to do that. His decision mattered. Jesus could have just forced him. Could have said, give him a threat, right? Do this or else. But he didn't. He gave him a choice. He never forced belief on anyone. He asked questions, told stories, let people wrestle with the truth, and then he just said, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. And then let them decide for themselves. Well, God does expect obedience, obviously. He calls us to engage with our faith and not just follow orders. Our churches and families should reflect that same model. Here's a few ways I think maybe we can improve. First, I want to encourage questions and don't give quick answers. Instead of merely giving them this pat Sunday school answer to say whatever is correct, provide deeper questions. Give your own doubts. Talk about your own struggles. How did you fight through that? Let young people wrestle with the faith in a way that they would to get better at any game. It's the difference between trying to beat a boss over and over and over, dying and failing over and over and over until they learn how to win. Or someone else who's already gotten good at the game, grabbing the controller, beating the boss and handing it back. They need to struggle. They need to have it feel real. And if someone else does it for them, they'll have no value. Another way is to invite them to participate in decision-making opportunities. Don't assign tasks to tell them what you've decided to do as a family. Let them create, let them plan, let them lead ways that have real impact. Let their opinions and their ideas shape the family life, shape their experience. Even if their ideas aren't that great, go with them anyway so that they experience agency and consequences. How do you get them out of the room? How do you want them to engage more? Why are they in the room so much? Why are they playing games so much? No agency in life, no consequences. Well, come with me. What do you want to do? Let's do that. Let their choices shape their life, in good and bad ways. How can they know that praying for something actually is going to change anything if they don't pray for one thing and then have the chance to not pray for the next? How are you going to let them experience how their lifestyle decisions affect others? Help them to see the cause and effect of their decision making. Yeah, they could completely screw it up, wreck their relationship, their personal health, their diet, exercise, scholastic choices, could blow it all up like in a game. Just game over. Might mean they fail. Or they get a cavity. Or they mess up the friendship. Or they offend somebody important. But that experience, that agency, the consequence, will shape them and give them a reason to engage in life. Third, the need for belonging and community. Third way that draws people is the people around. One of the biggest reasons people keep coming back to gaming isn't the gameplay. Believe it or not, the game is often inconsequential. Sometimes they play games they don't even want to play anymore, that they get mad at, that they don't even like. They do it for the people. The biggest lesson I've learned as a digital pastor is the power of shared experiences. And that includes watching videos together, listening to songs together, looking at memes together, silly pictures, experiencing the highs and lows of games together. There's a reason why reaction content and watching people play through a game instead of just playing it themselves is so popular on YouTube. It's because people are longing for connection, something human, someone to understand their interests and experience it along with them, if only virtually in a pre-recorded video. Instead of watching the gameplay, they're part of it. They're with somebody who's enjoying it along with them. Online games, however, create a very strong, often very vibrant, very, very living community where players feel like they belong. When they're there, and it's the game you can't pause, and they're there for hours, and they're talking into their mic, and they've got things to do, they feel depended on. They feel important. They have a role to play, whether it's protecting the group, or healing people to keep them alive, or being the front liner and dealing damage, or organizing the raid, or getting the practice ready, or running the Discord, or doing a million other things. Every player, every gamer has a purpose and a reason to show up, and a group that supports them. Multiplayer games are where they feel loved, and they're missed when they're not there. Beyond playing the game, gaming communities on Discord and other online forums where people just kind of chat, they're the spaces to be heard, share struggles, connect with others that understand them, that speak their language, who they don't have to defend their time to. Oh man, I spent 18 hours on that stupid boss last night. I got no sleep. All I've lived on is Doritos and Mountain Dew. I feel gross. And on their community, it's like, dude, that's awesome. Did you win? Not, ooh, that's terrible. Why did you do that? You know what that does in your health? They don't have to defend their time. They don't have to explain the jargon. They don't know their time telling people what they think they're trying to say. They're understood, they're accepted. And for many, their online gaming friends feel more like a family than the people around them ever will. Let me give you an example. I've always looked forward to Comic-Con. Anybody go to Comic-Con? I freaking love Comic-Con. How are you nerds not going to Comic-Con? Come on. Jeepers. Come on, it's so fun. And as I go each year, I learn, there's a deep truth that I've learned. A couple years ago, I brought some people with me to the convention, individuals in their late teens and 20s who struggle with some pretty serious mental health and social challenges. These young people, though they are some of the most creative and intelligent individuals I've ever met, they face these challenges that can make everyday life unbearable. One's on the autism spectrum, struggling with communication in any situation. Another experiences gender dysphoria, and just walking through public spaces can be a trigger response. Others find it hard to be in crowds, battling intense anxiety when they just get overwhelmed. They don't want to be there. Can't go to the mall, can't go with friends, movies are freaking them out. It's not just mental health struggles that weigh them down, it's this constant feeling of being misunderstood by those around them, feeling unsafe. Whether it's at school or with friends or with family, they can't actually share themselves, share their real interests, share their passions, communicate and they want to communicate the way they want to communicate because of fear of judgment and mockery. Cosplay, anime, tabletop gaming, collecting all those figurines, comic books, gaming, it's all seen as weird, childish by all the people who don't get it in their life. And because of their mental health and social disorders, they have a harder time explaining it. The world is hard for them. It's enough to make them want to hide in their room for a long time and not come out because the only people that understand them are in the room. And yet, despite all that, when Comic-Con comes around, something changes. They carefully construct, they put on their cosplay, they paint their faces, they excitedly plan how they're going to go interact with strangers, things they would never do anywhere else. But at Comic-Con, they're safe. Comic-Con, they're celebrated. They enter into the vendor hall, they go to Artist Alley, they have this chaotic, colorful, noisy environment, massive space packed with a bunch of fans and vendors and artists as far as the eye can see, and it is exciting. They get compliments when they walk through. They see other people that are like them. I was walking with my daughter and she was dressed up as just an obscure Minecraft character from years before. And she got stopped. Can we take a picture with you? We know exactly who you are. And just wait there. They went and got the rest of the crew. And there they were, sat nap and dream and all of them. But the energy and excitement can get really overwhelming, obviously. Sometimes they don't even last an hour and they need a break. I've seen it happen. I watched it. Just suddenly, they just leave. The noise is too much. The crowds feel too close. They run into a quiet corner. Off they go, sit there, and they regroup. You can watch them. They are done. But as soon as they feel ready, they head back in. Because the draw to belong to that community is stronger than the urge to flee. On the drive home, it's a different story. The energy that got them through the event is replaced with exhaustion and anxiety and emotional collapse. I look in the rearview mirror and I see just tired, done, the toll it's taken. One is curled up in fetal position in the back seat, completely shut down. Another is literally dissociating. The car's quiet, not because they don't want to talk about what they got and what they saw, but because they are utterly spent. These people who avoid feeling this way at all costs, they keep themselves distant from most crowds, staying home where it's safe and manageable. So why do they do this? Why do they choose to walk into a situation where they know they're going to come home ruined? The answer is simple. It's because they want to belong. They have a need to belong. They crave a place where they're understood, where they can be themselves without fear of judgment, and for them, Comic-Con is that place. It's a space where their interests aren't just tolerated, they're celebrated. It's a community where they can drop the masks that they wear in everyday life and just simply be. But here's the thing. Spaces like Comic-Con are rare. For many, those times are very few and far between. The same people who for a day thrive at Comic-Con go back into a world where they don't fit in and they feel misunderstood by their family, by their friends, by their school, by everybody. They don't get them. Instead of being loved, they're mocked, they're ignored. They're told that they'll never be understood. That's where the online spaces come in. There are countless people who feel isolated and alone because they don't fit into traditional spaces. They need somewhere they can connect, where their struggles can be acknowledged, where their passions are celebrated. Discord, Twitch, multiplayer gaming, YouTube, artist and musician forums, just somewhere they can be with other people that are like them, that love what they love, and understand what they understand. The church, in many ways, and a lot of families, in many ways, grandparents, uncles and aunts, teachers, they really struggle to reach these individuals. Often because they believe they will never understand that world. And so they avoid them. Consider how those people who are supposed to be closest to them often react when they admit that they like playing video games. It's rarely an admission that's met with excitement, or wonder, or questions about the experiences. It's often met with judgment, dismissal, even frustration. Why would you spend so much time on that? Video games are a waste of time. Video games are just plain evil. Those online people, they're all just trying to get you. They're not real friends. Imagine how that feels for someone to have the deepest friendships of their life online, a sense of purpose and meaning that they get through gaming. Instead of engaging with their world, these people get upset with them, brush them off, or criticize them. Compare that to how they feel with the gaming community. When they talk about their favorite game, their friends light up, ask questions, want to share their experiences. Let's play together. Which one would you want to spend time in? I know churches try to build common experiences. I know a lot of families try to build common experiences. But too often, let's just go with the church, it feels transactional. You show up, you sing some songs, you listen to a message, you shake a few hands, you leave. There's not much sense of shared life, deep relationships, common ground for nerds. Mutual risk, mutual adventure, investment in each other. This is very true in their home life as well. Family members split off into their own interests and responsibilities, rarely sharing about them. Even when they're in the same space, they're absorbed in their TV or on their phone or in work or whatever. Family meals are almost a thing of the past in many places. These people love their family, but when it comes to shared experiences and feeling needed, most interactions revolve around simply, asking about tasks and doing a health check. Those deeper conversations, the stuff, the struggles, the passions, the dreams, the achievements, the stuff that they've been working hard at, dedicating hours to, getting purpose from, pushed aside. Either because they don't have time, they don't have interest, or the unspoken assumption that the generations and people won't understand each other, so why have to try? When all that deeper stuff is ignored by the church, by their school, by their family, they're going to go somewhere where they're going to want to feel belonging. And that is often a gaming community. Now, we all know the church. It wasn't just a place where people went once a week. It was a place where people felt connected. Acts 2, we all know that one. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, the breaking of bread, and the prayers, and all who believed were together and had all things in common. They shared their lives. We know this. They shared their experiences. The biblical model of community is a family growing together and a team working together. It's not just a bunch of people in pews staring at the back of each other's heads. I'm not going to go into a million ways to do this because chances are you already know. Chances are your church is trying, or your family is trying, or we've already covered them. But I want you to recognize that not only are the online and gaming relationships very real to these people, they actually provide a depth and value that every human being is longing for. Let me wrap up. But you can come talk to me afterwards if you want to. Gaming isn't inherently good or bad. I enjoyed it. I didn't grow up with a console, so I get to play lots and lots of games I've never even seen or tried before. And I like it. I've grown to see it as a benefit, as just joyful, meaningful experiences, even a tool for ministry. Gaming is an activity, like movies or books or sports or anything else. The question isn't, is gaming bad? I wish we could get past that question. The question is, what do gamers get out of it? The goal isn't to eliminate gaming, but to understand why it's so appealing. For those who spend too much time, and yes, there are people who spend too much time, people we're concerned about, the focus shouldn't be on trying to stop them, but to find out why they're doing it, what they're getting from, what they're looking for, how the game is meeting their needs, and to search out the ways that maybe we could provide it in a healthier way, in a better way, in a more personal way ourselves as communities and parents and friends, so that they have a more balanced life. Not remove the game, but invite them into an adventure outside of it. We don't need to remove it. We just need to add value and purpose to the rest of their life. When people spend all their time gaming, it's worth asking why. What are they getting from there that they're not getting in real life? Is it a sense of achievement? Is it a sense of community? Is it a place where they finally feel in control, where they finally feel safe, where they have a purpose, where they have confidence? If gaming is where you or your loved one feels the greatest sense of purpose and belonging and challenge and comfort, then the issue isn't the gaming. It's that they aren't finding those things in their church, or their life, or their school, or their family, in the way or the amount that they need it. Because at the end of the day, people go to where they feel valued, loved, appreciated, and needed. So let's help the gamers in our lives know that their home and their church are places where they can feel that too.